Hello and welcome to the RYLACast, the official podcast, Camp RYLA, Rotary District 5810. My name is Greg Tepper, the other host of this podcast, and I've got to be honest, there was a recent poll that voted him the number one host of this podcast. Is the man they call Josey, Andrew Utz.
Well, thank you, Greg. How many people did that poll get distributed to?
Why would you ask those questions? And it was distributed to your wife and your son and your mom and your dad, and everything after that feels like quit asking questions.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes. This is the RYLACast, the official podcast of Camp RYLA, Rotary District 5810. We do thank you for spending a little bit of your day with us. Coming up here in just a little bit, we're going to hear from our friend Mike Williams, who we will talk to about baseball, but also other things connected to RYLA. And you will hear about him playing for the Savannah Bananas. That is a real thing that, like, I can promise that because we've already recorded that interview.
You'll find out what he was doing what he was thinking about while playing for the Savannah Bananas. Stay tuned.
How about that? See? Why don't you just stick around for that, you ding-dongs? I've been calling my kids ding-dongs recently because that feels like that won't scar my children.
Right.
If I'm like, oh, my dad called me a ding dong growing up. There's certainly things. I don't know how worried you are about, like, scarring your children for life, your son for life.
Every day, pretty consistently.
Like, everything concerned. I do, I'm just like, is this gonna ruin him? Yeah. But you don't gotta worry about if you call him a ding dong, because a ding dong is objectively funny. Anyway, so we will start this podcast in earnest by tossing it over to my friend Josey. He's your friend too, I presume. I don't know. Maybe you've met him, but even if you haven't, he feels like he's everybody's friend. To my friend Josey for today's big segment. Josey?
Well, thank you, Greg. Yes. So today's big segment is going to be a little smorgasbord.
Ooh, I love that.
If you will. So
what does smorgasbord mean?
Oh man, this is
okay. Here really we go. Smorgasbord.
I want to say.
Okay, I was today years old when I learned that it ends with a D.
Oh, smorgasbord.
Smorgasbord.
I feel like, I guess I use the word, so I should know what it means, right?
So there's two varieties. I think one of the things that you're referring to is a wide range of something, a variety, which is, kind of how it's used. But the other definition, a buffet offering a variety of hot and cold meats, salads, hors d'oeuvres, etc. Okay. I'm into a smorgasbord. It's a Swedish buffet.
Yes, I'm into both definitions of a smorgasbord. I'm going to focus on the former.
Yeah. And you're going to focus on the D on the end.
On the D.
Anyway,
yes.
Go on with the smorgasbord.
So I was researching topics to discuss, and I'm fascinated, as I'm sure every generation is to some degree, fascinated with Gen Z.
Oh yeah, the youths.
The youths. So I'm looking at a survey of 2,067 U.S. college students and recent graduates. So not a huge sample size if we're just looking at college-age individuals across the country. And they describe, or they ask them what company young people hope to work at. So the big hitter, care to guess the top three?
Okay, the top three. So company that Gen Z hopes to work at.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the top three has got to be Google.
Ding, ding. Number one.
Number one. Great. Top three. Like Instagram, Facebook? No?
Actually, no.
Okay, that's fine. All right, can I have one more guess?
One more guess.
Okay. So Google's one. Microsoft.
Ooh, Microsoft is in there. But Apple is number 3.
Apple. I should have known. I'm literally recording this on an Apple computer.
And I'm recording it on a Microsoft PC. So
there
look
you
at
go.
that.
So then what's number? So 1 is Google. That felt like a layup. Number 3 is Apple. What's number 2?
Number 2, in true Gen Z fashion of always keeping you guessing, the federal government.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you could have given me 40 guesses and wouldn't have gotten there.
Yeah, so that kind of leads me to my second point in this smorgasbord of a topic talking about big tech companies. And there's an article in the Harvard Business Review.
Yeah.
With Genpact CEO Tiger Tyagarajan. And the title is, I don't know if you've heard of him. That was a layup. I've never heard of this person in my entire life. AI is getting good. Artificial intelligence, not Allen Iverson, but still can't replace human curiosity, which I find fascinating. He's CEO. His firm advises clients on digital transformation, which, if we're following a theme for the night, sounds like a fake job, fake career.
Yeah, I agreed.
And one thing he talks about is how the world, both digital and the rest of the world has kind of been flipped upside down, with the pandemic, and you had to kind of rethink how to do things. And he talks about how that we as businesses are still in this process of learning about hybrid work. We're no longer in the office 5 days a week. And they're in that you don't want to lose that human curiosity. And so I think that's vital to, you try to teach leadership tools. And I think that's very important. I'm a big proponent of hybrid work just because I think that affords us time to spend doing other things as well. And there's some efficiencies there. But the human curiosity aspect I find really fascinating because I'm curious. I like to think I'm curious, and I'm always kind of wondering what's the deal with all the stuff, or how things work, and think it's pretty fascinating that no matter how, if you're a student at a university or a global CEO of over tens of thousands of people, that you still have to be curious and wonder how things work, and that's going to drive innovation.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that curiosity is a woefully underappreciated trait. Like, just generally, that we don't ask enough questions. I think we've found a way to, like, I don't want to say shame people from asking, like make people ashamed of asking questions, but like ignorance or not knowing something or just needing somebody to explain something to you is not weakness, but we've kind of made it that way. And I think that curiosity, just asking questions, is a great way of going about things. I was listening to a podcast recently from our boy, I would say the official boy of the RYLACast, Simon Sinek.
Okay, yes.
I was listening to his podcast, and he was talking about how he was sitting in like somebody asked him, "Hey, I want you to come and sit in on this meeting," and he talked about how he said like this meeting was going on, and he this was just way above his head. He has no idea what was going on, but like everyone else was kind of nodding along and stuff like that, and so kind of got to a stopping point, and he kind of raised his hand. And he goes, "Hey, I hate to be a dummy, but could you just kind of explain what you just said?" And then like 3 or 4 other people in the room who are like C-level people are like, "Yeah, we don't understand what you said either." And that to me, like, there's a power in curiosity. There's a power in being like, explain this to me like I'm 5. Like, take a step back and explain to me what's going on here, because I don't know. I think that there's a value in that of understanding that you're not required to know everything all the time.
I 100% agree. And it kind of goes back into the, if you're the smartest person in the room, find a bigger room.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely. 100%. Okay. Thank you, Josey. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Greg.
And I presume the listeners do. They're applauding right now. They're clapping right now, but you can't hear them because this is being recorded.
Yes, I can only hope they're applauding. And please comment, rate, and subscribe to let us know.
Just comment with the clapping emoji. We'll know what you meant. A little earlier today, we had a great conversation with our guest, Mike Williams. We talk a little bit about his RYLA story, a little bit about baseball, a little bit about everything in between. Here is Mike Williams here on the RYLAcast. Josey.
Craig.
So we talked about this before we came on the air, and you mentioned this in confidence, so I'll just bring it to the air that I'm kind of mostly in charge of booking the guests, which always makes me very nervous because I'm always interested in what you think of the guests that I book. And so here with a live reaction of Mike Williams being on this podcast is Josey.
We got Mike Williams?
Yeah, we do.
Wow.
Did I do it?
You did it. In all honesty, I could not be more confident in your ability to pick guests for this esteemed podcast.
Well, let's not go crazy with esteemed. Hi, Mike.
What's going on, fellas?
We appreciate your time. We'll start this podcast kind of as we often do, by asking you a little bit about your RYLA story, how you came to be involved with the program as it exists today, and kind of your journey to this moment.
Oh man. Okay. So like I said, thanks for having me on the podcast first and foremost. I guess my RYLA story starts with like my sister, because she went to RYLA before me in 2013. And then, she came back from camp and did the whole, I'm not going to tell you exactly what happened, but I had a lot of fun, met a lot of new people, a unique experience, the whole nine. So I was like, okay, sounds like something I might want to do if I get the opportunity to be able to do it. And, 2 years went by, and then I got the same opportunity to go through the interview process for the Preston Center Rotary. Got selected to attend camp, was excited, kind of went to camp with reservations like a lot of the high school kids do, just not knowing what to expect. The first day was still kind of like, what's going on? I don't know a lot of people here. There was a couple of people from my high school, including Jessica Mays, awesome Jessica Mays. She was at camp the year I was there. So I knew a few people, but it still was just like, this is about my development as a leader. I don't know if I'm bought in yet. And then the second day at camp, I want to say Reggie Carney, he was the speaker during one of the facilitations, and he asks for people to come up to the stage and lip sing Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson, and just kind of just let loose and just be free. And so I was like, I raised my hand like, I guess I'll do it. Just kind of mess around. Didn't think he would see me. And he selected me to go on stage. And I was like, oh, man. So I'm up there, 100 and...
Let me back up here for a moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
So your RYLA story has a deep connection to Michael Jackson?
A deep connection.
Okay. No, go on. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Deep. Yes. No, very deep. So they start the song, and then I just was like, I'm just going to go all out. And I just went all out and had fun on the stage. And then we got like a round of applause, kind of in the RYLA spirit. But for myself, it kind of like freed me up to enjoy the rest of the week and to really kind of pay attention and lock in. And then, I think the next, maybe later that day or the next day, Reggie Carney might have been Monday. I think Reggie Carney was Monday, and then Tuesday we broke the boards at Troy. So we broke the boards, and then, just kept moving forward through the week. And then, my cabin group, we got really close, the girls' cabin, the guys' cabin. And then, by the end of the week when we got to the campfire, it was like tears. one of my buddies who was at camp also from my high school. We grew up together, and he was our high school quarterback at RYLA, and he was like, had his arm around me saying like, nothing's going to be the same, bro. It was like Friday Night Lights or something. Like we go back to high school, but it was true. Like, it was like, so it did change, myself and all the people that I knew from camp for the better when we went back to school. And then, I found out the opportunity to come back and, be a part of the advisory, got a chance to be a part of that. And then I remember interviewing to be an ACA or AC for camp. I remember Tevin and Adam Zapataki, they were the ones that interviewed me. And I ended up getting selected to be an ACA, and then came back to camp that year. Was on staff, and that was really awesome. Just being able to meet all the people that I kind of looked up to when I was at camp, that were on staff, that were counselors too, and kind of seeing the behind the scenes of camp and helping, bring that to life. And then during that week, it was just a great week. And really enjoyed my time. It was just kind of really just a workhorse that week. I was just really wanting to serve, be a servant leader. And that was like a lot of fun. And I received the Peter Tomas scholarship that was available for the assistant counselors, and wasn't even thinking about it when they announced it. I was like, I didn't even know they gave scholarships to ACAs. I was just, having the time of my life being on staff and helping out and everything like that. And so it was a blessing to, kind of when you're just kind of putting your head down and serving, and, there's, I guess, recognition. I wasn't looking for it, but it was cool. I guess maybe something of kind of a validation of, just the fun that Camp RYLA brings, just the natural servant leadership that comes out of you when you're on staff, at least for myself. I think you all can relate to that also. And then, there was kind of a lull because I went to college and I played college baseball. Summers or for summer baseball in the season or during the year, you're doing school, you're playing baseball. So I wasn't as involved with RYLA until RYLA 2021, I want to say. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And I was a counselor for cabin 3. That was kind of me getting my feet wet. It wasn't necessarily camp, but it was, you still had some responsibilities to try to organize a cabin virtually, which is extremely tough, as y'all are aware, so it was a different type of challenge. But it was a good introduction kind of back into the world of RYLA, and then the chance to come back to camp for this past year of camp in 2022. And this, like, oh my gosh, being on staff this past year was like just the best week, man. Like, I had a blast. I think that was when I first met you, Greg. We just had a lot of fun just whenever we saw each other in between moving around and just staff meetings. And it was just a blast being back at the physical campsite, facilitating camp for the campers, and reflecting on, just what had been a tough year for a lot of us as Rylarians, especially, some of the older Rylarians with, Scooter passing away. And it was just a lot of uncertainty, but happy uncertainty coming back to camp, and but it ended up being a blessing, I think, for everyone that got a chance to attend and be on staff, and, kind of like we were getting our feet back under us for everybody, and kind of getting those traditions back going. And like when I left camp, I was like boo-hoo crying. Like, I got to the gate, and I think Joni was.
To be clear, I'm not
like,
laughing at you.
No.
We're all laughing together as friends.
No, I know, 100%. When I got to the last gate to leave, I'm pretty sure Joni was manning the gate, and I was just crying. Like, why, Joni? Because it's kind of a long drive where you don't see anybody like when you're leaving until you see the last people at that gate. So like when I started that drive, I was like, man, I can't believe I'm leaving this place. Just how awesome it was. I was just thinking about the week and just started crying. And then just for the next probably 10 minutes, I was just like crying, like, man, I can't wait for next year. And I think the beauty of it too is realizing that now that when you're on staff and you're living in the Dallas area, there's more opportunities to engage and see, your RYLA family more than maybe when I was in college. I think part of that was me still being in the mindset of, subconsciously, oh, I'm not going to see these people. But like now that we're in the city, we I see Greg, I see Josey from time to time helping out with the RYLA advisory. So it's like, it's good to know that I can still see everyone and have connections and, hang out and everything like that. So it's a little bit more intimate, but it still like hit me like a ton of bricks when I left camp, man. But I tried to give the short as I can. That's my RYLA story up until this point.
Extremely brief. Well done.
Yeah, that is a great RYLA story. And I will say, it's really good when we can reconnect with some campers, alumni that haven't been involved in the program. And the amount of joy I felt seeing your name in 2021 and 2022, Mike, is indescribable. So I'm curious to see, you mentioned that you were off playing baseball from 2017 to 2021. So what kept you, or was there anything that kept you kind of engaged from afar with RYLA, or what was that trigger to come back in 2021?
Man, I think I always wanted to come back. I mean, it was always just a matter of obligation with the game of playing baseball, right? So I would get into summer and I was like, man, maybe if, summer ends early enough, if camps, in August or whatever, maybe I could, go for a couple of days. But both of the summers that I played, because like the year after my assistant council year, I couldn't go back. You got to take your gap year. So I couldn't go back to camp, and I was actually in Dallas. So I would have been able to go then, but like I said, with the gap year, I wasn't able to go. But the 2 summers after that, I was playing baseball in Victoria, Texas, all the way up until like the school year started. We won a Texas Collegiate League championship in that league. Went to school in Corpus, started my first year there, got done there. Then I went to Savannah and played with the Savannah Bananas, and then even then when I was in Savannah, I was like, oh man, maybe. I kept note of when Camp RYLA was starting. Like, I was on I followed the Instagram. I think I was still in the alumni email list. So I still kept track of when camp was, and I would just keep up with what was going on. But it just I was like, man, I can't wait to get back. And then the pandemic happened, right? So the one summer that I might have been able to, that I wasn't playing summer ball, camp didn't happen. And so kind of along with everyone else, we all kind of experienced that lull. But I think what kept me always wanted to come back to camp was just servant leadership was always a big part of me being in college as well. Just being kind of a team captain on a lot of the teams I played on in school ball and in summer ball, especially at A&M Corpus Christi. Being a part of our student athlete advisory committee executive board, which is like our student athlete community leadership organization. So being on the executive board for a couple of years and so always being engaged in leadership and knowing that when I got done with college, I wanted to continue to grow as a leader and help foster the next generation of leaders as well. Always kept RYLA on my mind. So I would say that's probably the reason why, just always still being engaged in leadership, even in college, even if it wasn't necessarily with RYLA.
I have a 4-year-old, and you should know that he is on the Bananas in T-ball.
Yes, I've seen it. I love
it. It's so I will now only exclusively think of you, and I will say, dang it, Hank, why can't you be more like Mike? Okay, so I'm on your LinkedIn, and here on your LinkedIn, it's referring to you as Business Systems Analyst 2 at Epsilon. And 1, that's a fake job. There's no way that's a real thing. I don't know what that means. And there's no, you've made up a job, and I'm happy for you because I'm in favor of people getting paid. So I guess 1, what is Business Systems Analyst 2 at Epsilon? And 2, how would you say that RYLA informs the things that you do as a business systems analyst too at Epsilon?
Awesome. Yeah. So business systems analyst, it kind of, like I said, you said it's not real, because it's funny enough, there's so many different explanations that
It
you
sounds
can
like
give
exactly like something with someone with a fake job would describe their
Exactly,
job as.
right?
To be honest, man, I've been watching a lot of fiction that has fake jobs in it.
Listen,
So,
when I tell people, they're like, "Oh wow!" It's like either it's like, "Oh wow," like that sounds shady, or it's, "Oh wow," like that's legit. It's like, I don't know, but so a business systems analyst. Well, my mold of a business systems analyst is I'm an operations business systems analyst, and my client team that I work with, it's a team of us. Some are in Texas, some are in Cincinnati, some are in India. So it's kind of all over. Some are in California, Colorado. But we help. Oh, well, let me explain it. So
you
Epsilon.
can't even do it, Josey.
Look, I know.
He's looking at he's looking at a map in his room,
There's so
just
many
naming
layers.
cities that we work with people in.
He's
so many
realizing,
layers.
he's like, oh man, this is a mistake coming on this podcast.
So we help Wells Fargo's loyalty operation. So if you have a rewards account with Wells Fargo, the Epsilon Wells Fargo team takes care of auto redemptions, bonuses that you get, that those customers get with their accounts, basically help organize that data, help design the website. So there's a bunch of different aspects to it. The operations team, we more deal with the financial customer side of it. So if there's an issue with a customer's bonuses, or their auto redemption, or the process of customers getting their points back, we're kind of the bones of that. We're the ones that fix it and can see inside of the body and do surgery, I guess. And then our project team, they're kind of like the designers. I call our project team the fighter pilots. And then we're the one engineer on the flight deck, and sometimes the project team, they're just thinking about their plane. So they'll just come and hit you with, "Hey, I need this done, but I have 15 other planes to work on." So it's kind of the operations team is kind of, it's a lot, because we help support our developers, which are our engineers, our database team, which are kind of like engineers too, but they just deal with data. And then we also help support our project team, who help design the website and make updates to the websites that we support for Wells Fargo. So it's been a busy time lately, because Wells Fargo's had a lot of issues. So we feel the collateral, we feel kind of the rollover from that. So, but it's a fun job. Like I said, just got promoted to business systems analyst too. So that was a blessing. So I've been enjoying it.
Okay, I feel like I have a vague notion of what
There
you
we
do
go.
now, but
Yes.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm still gonna look at that, and it's just gonna be just complete corporate mumbo jumbo to me. But
Of
that's
course.
okay.
It
Yeah,
is.
it's fine.
But congratulations on the promotion.
Yeah, absolutely,
Thank you.
man.
I appreciate it.
All right. Well, now comes the time in every podcast, as I'm sure you know, as an avid listener of this esteemed podcast, where we
Stop
give.
calling it esteemed. They're gonna call us out on it in the comments.
We
Esteemed.
like to give our guests an opportunity to plug something you're into, book, movie, social media, Savannah Bananas, whatever you're passionate about. So the floor is yours.
I'll do a few things. So I guess plug my Instagram, if any RYLArians want to keep up with me in the random comments, or not comments, but posts that I post on Instagram. As Tepper and Josey know, you might not be ready for my Twitter. It's all sports. So
You
I don't know.
sports so hard.
You are, as
I
someone. Let
cover
me
the
tell you,
gambit.
I work in sports, and even I am like, dang, that's a lot of sports.
I cover the gambit. I know soccer, basketball, baseball. So I don't think you probably don't want my Twitter. There's nothing bad going on there.
Don't you have, by the way, don't you have some sort of front running soccer team?
No, I don't. Manchester United, they're doing well. They're coming back.
Jeez.
Oh yeah, little upstart Manchester United.
I'm a Manchester United fan.
Listen,
Brother, I root for Queen's Park Rangers. We're trying to get relegated from the championship. I don't want to hear about Manchester United. Go on with your plug.
QPR back in like 2010 or 2000.
Yeah, when they got promoted, and it was awesome. And then we don't talk about the last 12 years.
I mean, I respect it. I have an origin story with Man U back like, 07, 08, 09, watching. They used to have Sky Sports broadcast on Verizon Fios. So that was like the only team they talked about. When I started back watching, they're like in the pandemic, they were struggling. So last season was a horrible season. So I didn't join on the up, but yeah, so the Twitter might not be for everyone, but Instagram, it's Mike_3, ITS Mike_3. I have a book that I'll plug here. It's a very long book. I haven't finished it myself, but I've been reading it over some time. It's called The Body Keeps Score by Bessel van der Kolk. And it's basically the brain, mind, and body and the healing of trauma. And it kind of just takes into account how in the human life, a lot of us have different traumas, and whether it's some are more traumatic than others, but those little traumas add up, and like I said, the body keeps score. So kind of how he's in his studies as being a doctor over many years, how he's seen that play out in a bunch of different cases. So it's really informative and can help, I guess, free your mind up into how to move forward from those situations, that we all face in life. Life isn't easy. So yeah, The Body Keeps Score. Great book. Third thing, I'm trying to think of I thought I had a movie. I don't know if you haven't seen Creed 3, go watch Creed 3. Great movie.
All right.
Great
Creed
message.
3. Okay. Creed 3. Finally, and Mike, I don't mean to exclude you, but Josey, there's been something I've been meaning to talk to you about for a while now, and that is I don't know how often you think about the 2016 Major League Baseball draft. I think about it a lot. Do you think about it a lot, Josey?
Not just in passing, really.
Okay, that's interesting because I think the 2016 Major League Baseball draft kind of sucks. Shane Bieber is a Cy Young Award winner. That's awesome, right? He was 122nd overall. Cleveland got a little lucky, whatever. But after that, it gets real thin. Like Brian Reynolds, solid player for Pittsburgh. Okay, solid player. Tommy Edman, he's just like a classic Cardinals player, which means that I kind of hate him. I hope my wife doesn't listen to this podcast. But like classic Cardinals player. Pete Alonso, the polar bear, I love him. Like he's on Team Swing real hard. I'm always a fan of that. But then it's like Bo Bichette, it's Kevin Biggio, both of whom I think have kind of underachieved in a lot of ways. Zach Gallen's on that list anyway. I just don't know how you feel about the 2016 Major League Baseball draft. And I guess I'll just, Mike, you're here. I'll loop you in on what you feel about the 2016 Major League Baseball draft.
How I feel about it?
Yeah.
Oh man, how I feel about the 2016 Major League.
Yeah, because it feels like there's a couple people missing. Maybe one in particular on the in the draft. What I'm saying is that I've got perfectgame.org pulled up here, and Josey, I'd like to read you something from perfectgame.org.
I'm listening.
Let's read the profile of Mike Williams. It's interesting. From Rowlett High School, committed to Sam Houston. At that point, Sam Houston State. Mike Williams is a 2016 outfielder with a 6'2", 175-pound frame from Rowlett, Texas, attends Rowlett High School. Tall, athletic build, I'll say. Plenty of room to get stronger. Outstanding runner, 6.5 in the 60. We got to talk about the 60-yard dash. That is not, quite frankly, that is like it's an unstable amount of distance. 60-yard dash, guys. Come on. Anyway. Yeah. Speed impacts all parts of the game. Left-handed hitter, short compact swing, inside swing path, smooth swing and gets the barrel to the ball, fires his hips early and get to the ball out to the gaps, projects well with additional strength, showed very good range in the outfield, natural center fielder, easy gliding action, works through the ball while throwing, can improve arm strength with a longer stride out front. Very nice athlete with a big tool and lots of physical projection. Follow closely. Excellent student. So Mike, do you want to talk baseball?
Yeah, let's talk some baseball. Why not?
So you played at Sam Houston, and then you transferred to Paris Junior College before transferring to, and you were an Islander of the A&M Corpus Christi Islanders. Shout out, an excellent mascot. So let's just bring it all full circle. Baseball and your RYLA experience. I want you to find a way to connect those two so it gives people a reason to listen.
Ooh. Yeah. Baseball and the RYLA experience, man.
No pressure.
I think baseball and the RYLA experience connected for me in my career is always looking for an opportunity to lead, even if I wasn't the face of what was going on. So like for that first year when I was at Sam Houston State, really good ball club. That team, they went to a super regional. So really good team. And I was a freshman, I was just trying to learn and catch up. So I was like, how can I, even when I got there, I was like, how can I lead? I mean, I'm fresh off being on staff, just fired up about RYLA leadership. And so I became kind of a pseudo freshman leader. So like we had the older guys who were like, that had been there that were leading this group that went to a regional the year before trying to make it to a super regional or College World Series. They're really motivated about that, but they looked to myself and I was the hitter. I was kind of like the hitter, freshman leader. Then there was a pitcher. His name's Hayden Wesneski. He actually just broke in with the Cubs this past season. And they looked to us to kind of lead the freshmen, sophomores, younger guys. Like they would kind of ask for reports from us, like what's going on, or is everything staying in line in the dorms and everything like that. So, and that continued when I got to Paris Junior College. I was there for a year and kind of stepped into a leadership role there, just with the experience I brought from Division I baseball. And then when I got to A&M Corpus Christi, I kind of had to play the background again, which I had experience in because there were some upperclassmen and it was my first year there, but I still was able to lead kind of by example and by just my personality, I guess, just being a good teammate and helping trying to change the culture. And then my last couple years at A&M Corpus Christi, it was kind of like I was more on the front side of things where I was one of the better players and the leader for the team. So it was kind of like making decisions, keeping everything in order. And we had a really good year my last season, I think, because we had about 5 of us that were kind of naturally inclined to leadership. So we were able to keep kind of the younger guys a little bit, keep them more focused while allowing them to be themselves, but keep them focused on the goal and how to be a college baseball player, how to be in a program. So like I said, RYLA always impacted everything that I did in college baseball, just holding myself to a standard with teammates. And one of the big things with RYLA is that I always feel like I gained was awareness. You're always aware. You're more aware of what other people, culture, genders may be going through or thinking about because camp exposes you to the deeper side of a lot of relationships with people that you never met before. So like once you leave camp, even if you're on staff, I'm more aware of like different walks of life. And so when I took that to college where I felt I could connect with anybody on any team that I played with. So I feel like I was a good teammate because of that skill that I learned from RYLA, just being introduced to and being around different cultures and everything like that, allowed me to be a good teammate. And, when I played summer ball in Victoria, Texas, and then in Savannah, that was kind of like the fun side of RYLA, where it's all about, having fun with the fans and putting a good product on the field every day, because that's all in those cities. That's kind of all the fans have. It's just, is baseball. So just that's more of like, it was more like sacrifice, but fun sacrifice in Savannah, especially because, you get 4,000 fans a night, you're having the time of your life, you're doing dances, you have the best attraction maybe in college and collegiate summer baseball, probably for sure, especially now. You see how it is now with Savannah. And it was similar back then as well. So just having fun and kind of embracing that fun and goofy side of the RYLA experience as well. RYLA touched every corner of my college career. So yeah, that's how I say it would connect.
Okay.
Good job. Excellent. Very good.
Yes. Speaking of RYLA and having fun and collegiate career and your draft profile, so your 60-yard dash time is in the 99.41 percentile.
Again, can't stress enough, 60-yard dash is not a recognized
That's not
amount.
the fastest I ever ran either.
Right.
Oh,
Okay.
wait, what was the fastest you ran?
I had a pre-draft workout when I was a junior. I ran like a 6.39.
Okay. So that brings me to my next question, and this is a safe space. Feel free to answer totally
Nobody's
honestly.
listening to this.
Nobody's listening to this. Do you think you're the fastest person at camp, and then broader within RYLA?
Oh, wow. Don't be humble.
I'm trying to think about, because there's been some track athletes, but I don't think anyone's beating me in a foot race. If I say off the top of my
That's
mind,
a way to figure this out.
I don't think. I mean, I'm trying to think if I'm missing over. There might be somebody, an ace in the hole that I'm not thinking about.
So you've always got to watch out for the ACs, because I know you're a young man, but you're getting older. And I learned that the hard way. You only get older, like from here.
Which
And
AC?
so-
I don't even think there's an AC that I've been at the AC meetings. Not saying I've been in there scouting like who's faster, but I don't think anybody's touching me. I don't think so.
Okay, I will throw one person out there that may be, and I'm not saying that he's gonna beat you. But
I'll go ahead and deny and respectfully decline Greg.
There's one name that I
not
have in
Josey.
mind. I wonder if it's the
Josey
same.
is going to step out of this. He's going to say, no, it's not me.
There's one name that I have in mind.
Okay, what's your name?
You say it. You go first.
Brett Scroggins.
No shot.
No shot.
You think
no
Brett Scroggins
shot.
can beat you? Man, I don't know, man. He's athletic. He is my roommate at camp,
Brett. No
but
shot.
I don't know. He's
I would
feisty.
give Jay more of a shot than maybe Brett.
Jay Bailey?
Long legs, man. You never
He
know.
is long.
athlete,
He's
former
very
athlete.
lengthy.
Former athlete, basketball player, getting up and down.
Good point. Yeah, I can see that. Golly.
I'm going to throw it someone from the senior tour in, Coach Jeff Egger, track coach extraordinaire.
That he works out.
That's
interesting.
I'll tell you, I still back myself. Like I said, when I was in high school, this is the thought process behind recruiting for me. It was, if you run a 6.5 60, you're gonna steal some money, because it's like speed. You can get a scholarship offer off of that. I was a good player.
That's like it's Billy Hamilton. Billy Hamilton's still cashing checks. You know what I mean?
Exactly right. So I'm a technician in running in a straight line. That was like all I trained for was plyometrics. I didn't even do too many weights. It was plyometrics. Like I worked out with sprinters over at West Mesquite High School. It was like all that I did was learning how to run, turnovers, stride frequency, impacting the ground with dorsal flexion. Like I still walk around the house with dorsal flexion. Like
that is as fake a term as your job title, business systems analyst too.
Look it up. I'm telling you.
Okay.
All I'm saying is I got pedigree. Like it's almost like, I could potentially pull a hamstring, but if I get the added time to warm up and I got one good bullet in me, I do not doubt that you are probably the fastest guy at camp, but I will also say this. Has anyone ever seen Dana run? I
That's
would put Prime Dana against anything.
That's a great point.
Prime Dana.
Where's the time machine?
Prime Dana could get it to top speed in a hurry.
Dana went toe to toe against Larry Bird.
That's what I'm saying. Hey,
many
Indiana.
people forget. Many people forget that. He's Mike Williams. Mike, we appreciate your time. Thanks for telling us about your job and baseball and all that implies here on the RYLACast.
Hey, this has been a blast. Thanks for having me. I look forward to seeing both of y'all soon in preparation to camp multiple times soon, as we start to ramp up, and at camp also. So it's going to be a great time. So thank y'all for having me. I had a blast.
And our thanks once again to Mike Williams joining us here on the RYLACast. Finally got to talk a little baseball. I've been trying for 50 episodes to pivot this to a baseball podcast. We finally did it.
Dreams do come true.
Dreams really do come true. All right. It's my job to bring us home, Josey. And
bring us home.
So I want to be clear and honest and forthright and transparent with our audience. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to take you through the exact process of me finding what I'm about to tell you. Okay.
Okay.
So I think people know what I do for a living. And if they don't, because every podcast is somebody's first, hello, welcome. So I cover football for a living. That's what I do. And one of my goals this off season, which is functionally, let's call it January to August, right? One of my goals during this off season is to get a better understanding of the basic schematics, not basic, but the schematics of football, of why people block the way they do. Specifically, I've been focusing on the defensive side because I think offense is a little easier to understand than defense. Defense is a little more nebulous. And so I've been focusing on a lot of the X's and O's, a lot of the schematics around defense, right? I've been just studying up, watching a lot of film, reading a lot about it, trying to understand how all of this works, right? How defense works. Because I know it does. And I know that there's a lot of people who are theoretically my constituents, right? Coaches, stuff like that, who know a ton about football, and I want to be able to talk to them without sounding like a real dum-dum, right? A real ding-dong, to borrow a phrase.
Ding-dong, yes.
Right. So one of the things that I did was I subscribed to a Substack. Now, are you familiar with Substack?
I'm familiar in that it's a site where
it's like a
bloggers?
paid blog.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like a Patreon version of a blog. You know what I mean? It's a paid blog. Substack. And so I subscribed to one. It's called Match Quarters. It's run by a gentleman named Cody Alexander. Cody Alexander is a very smart, understands the game in a very deep way. I've learned a lot about you don't care about this, dear listener, but a lot about blitz packages and a lot about secondary coverages and how to match up with your specific, whenever they put a certain personnel unit on the field, how you match up with that, things like that. I've learned a lot about him from Match Quarters by Cody Alexander, so I want to make sure I plug that. But another thing that he does is once a month, and I promise you this is coming back to RYLA. That's how I feel like I say that a lot on this podcast. I promise you this is coming back to RYLA. Another thing that he does is once a month, he posts a reading list. Okay? He posts, here's what you should be reading, and it's just a bunch of links. And you would think, it's going to be a bunch of links to another nerd blog, right? It's another podcast or another blog that's explaining exactly why having two tight ends on the field is a good thing. You know what I mean? Dumb things like that. No. And in fact, he has a lot of things that I think are pretty relevant to this podcast. And so I want to make sure I credit Cody Alexander of Match Quarters for directing me to this article that I'm reading. The difference between open-minded and closed-minded people. You didn't see that swerve coming, did you?
No, I did not. No. Okay.
So it was we took a scenic route to get here, but here we are talking about the difference between open-minded and closed-minded people. And this is an article on fs.blog. I don't know what fs.blog is. Farnham
Functional
Street.
senses.
Farnham Street. Whatever that is. I don't know. Anyway, I just know I got it through my friend Cody at Match Quarters. And essentially, this is one of those articles where they talk a lot about the differences between two types of people who are closed-minded and open-minded. And they run through a lot of different things. Like, for example, closed-minded people don't want their ideas challenged, while open-minded people are more curious about why there's disagreement, things like that. And so they run through a bunch of things, but there was one that, like, I was reading this the other day and it caught me in my tracks. Like, it stopped me in my tracks because I am 100% guilty of this. 100% guilty of this. And he's quoting from a book by a gentleman named Ray Dalio, who is a self-made billionaire. He's the founder of the largest hedge fund in the world. Now, the stance of Greg Tepper is that billionaires shouldn't exist, but good for Ray Dalio, right? He wrote a book called Principles. And in that, he said something that I think is super specific and super poignant because I'm very guilty of it. Close-minded people say things like, I could be wrong, but here's my opinion. Open-minded people know when to make statements and when to ask questions. I am so guilty, personally, me, Greg Tepper, your friend, talking to you on this podcast. I am so guilty of saying I could be wrong, but blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And he goes on, he says, this is a classic cue I hear all the time. It's a perfunctory gesture that allows people to hold their own opinion while convincing themselves that they're being open-minded. If your statement starts with, I could be wrong, you should probably follow it with a question and not an assertion. Okay. That one hit me square in the jaw because I have been so guilty of that and being and now I'm questioning myself of saying, I could be wrong, but blah, blah, blah. Right?
Right.
Am I only saying that to give the appearance of being open-minded while still being no, I want you guys to agree with me, and that type of thing. When I read that, it just it struck me like a thunderbolt. There with that, I might be wrong, but if you say that, and that's a great way to put it, is that he says you're not wrong for saying that, but make sure you follow that up with a question. Say I might be wrong, but do you guys think that this thing is the way to go? This way is the way to go, as opposed to saying, I might be wrong, but here's exactly what I think. Because functionally what you're saying is I want you, Josey, or whoever's listening, I want you to tell me that I'm wrong so then I can challenge you. Because nobody's going to do that. Or at least, unless you really feel strongly about it. That one caught me by surprise. And so, anyway, let's be thoughtful and intentional about the way that we're talking about things, and be much more open-minded than perhaps we have been, even in ways that we don't realize, like this particular way. So I would challenge you for this week to go out there and be intentional about the way that you talk about these types of, be the way you approach conversations, the way you approach these types of things, because perhaps you're giving off the appearance of closed-mindedness, while deeply you're saying, oh, well, I'm being open-minded by saying this certain thing. So anyway, by the way, the next one on there is just shut up.
Well, and my mouth has been open for the last 45 seconds. My mind, I feel like my reaction in real time while you've been eloquently stating the point is
yeah,
this, okay.
It is, because it does. It feels like, oh, what if I put this nice lotion on this before I go and I just hit you? You know what I mean?
It feels very disarming.
It does. It feels disarming. And you're like, oh, don't worry. I could be wrong. By all means, tell me if I'm wrong. But here's a thing that I am sure is right. You know? That is, you're I think that is it's super true that is the type of thing that closed-minded people think or say, whereas open-minded people, like I said, all you have to do is separate statements from questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a way of doing that exact same thing, of saying, I think this, what do you guys think?
Right.
Just that simple changing of the way that you phrase the exact same conversation is going to allow yourself to be more open to hearing what other people think. And also, I think, give others the permission structure to say what they think, as opposed to saying, oh, well, I don't want to, I mean, you know, he said I could be wrong, but I don't want to call him wrong. That feels like you're kind of putting on this shield of armor that you don't necessarily need for a situation like this, especially if you want to actually hear what your constituents have to say.
Fascinating.
So, anyway, there you go. There's something that I read that's a roundabout way of saying subscribe to Match Quarters if you want to learn a lot about the way that Illinois blitzed this past year. That's true. They have a lot of stuff on that. Okay. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us here on the RYLAcast. We hope that you will rate, subscribe to this podcast, and tell a friend about the RYLAcast. And here, with an antiquated way of telling a friend about the RYLAcast, is Josey.
Yes, thank you, Greg. And antiquated way. So I see this that Substack allows for a podcast component, and that also kind of group a couple different publications in if you go to subscribe. So it's a bit antiquated, also really updated. Make sure you, in the blog that you have, you tie in a subscription to our free RYLAcast with the subscription to your paid Substack, and spread the word that way. Because
on your GeoCities page,
now you've lost me.
Are you unfamiliar with GeoCities?
I'm unfamiliar with. Is that pre MySpace or post MySpace?
Oh my god!
Zanga, pre Zanga.
I've never felt older than I do right now. Oh, shout out!
Was it available on Web TV?
Oh God! Time really does wait for no man. It's amazing. Anyway, thanks, Josey, for your courage.
Thanks, Greg.
Talk to you next time on the RYLAcast.